basically the tooling is a set of bash scripts with text files which get modified by the script in Git, and the voting happens in Gerrit. So we have basically the problem that not everybody's able to handle the bash scripts. The setup is not that easy.
The first problem is you have to paste and copy the emails into text form.
No.
To integrate it in the Git. You have to make a Git
yes, you have to clone the Git. Yes, of course.
You have to make this text batches out from the email. This isn't automatic. Oh, is it?
No. In Gerrit, so everybody, we get an email. Mostly somebody is sending the patch to Gerrit, and
we are frozen. Okay.
Yeah.
But we can't.
Yes.
You're doing fine. We stay with that picture.
So we have that Gerrit patch, and then we can vote, and so that everybody has to search what the person had written in that mail or in the form. Somebody has to put that content in the Gerrit patch, and most likely we try to search for more information if it's not a well-known person for everybody, or
if you're a member of a body, that's quite easy.
Yes. Or if you simply post a link, if you're a developer, to Gerrit, hey, these are my change sets, then it's really easy for us. So we have only to put the link in the Gerrit, and everybody can verify that this person did something useful.
But some people tend to answer on this reminder mail. Yes, I want to refresh my membership.
Yeah.
And that's all. And so the research from our side starts if he has made some contributions, and if we can accept this.
Or for example, I translated as every year the application, and what was the username of that user, and let us look up some old contributions. The old Gerrit from the last year. Hopefully we posted the link there.
So this is a lot of manual work at last, and so. After this is done, we decide to accept or to deny those applications, and then the applicant gets a mail of the result. This is the process by now. And to get this process, this is the tooling described, Git and Gerrit, and bash scripts, which just preferably work on Linux, not on Microsoft.
At least out of the box.
And you said not every member. I only knew 2 members, maybe 3, who are able to handle it.
Yeah, maybe even 4.
Okay.
But it needs time to. What was it? I did it ages ago, for example.
So this was the starting point, and so we started to develop an idea.
We have to say, in the beginning of a document foundation, most members of the membership committee were developers. So they know how to handle and set up the bash scripts, how to clone Gerrit, and how to use that. And mostly every dev is, at least in our community, a Linux dev, Linux user. So that was not a problem at that time. Nowadays we have.
It was quite normal for them to use those tools.
We have marketing guys. We have only translation of event organizers, and now we have the problem that only a few are able to handle the scripts, and that plus it's really much manual work in the end.
It's really, even if you can handle these,
Yeah.
it's a lot of manual work. See, just at the moment, we got a lot of mails back,
Yeah.
which are rejected from our mail server because of some, don't know why.
Bad configuration.
Bad configuration, not of the mail server, but
No.
of the scripts. We have to change the scripts again and again.
No,
No?
it's just configuration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but doesn't help if it's
doesn't help, they come back.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is one thing is to make handling easier. The other thing is some years after the GDPR, we have some concerns with that, because if you use a Git repository, you distribute all those personal data all over the world, and this is not what we want to do anymore. So we love to have
basically we are not allowed in certain ways.
You have to do a lot of paperwork to make it possible.
Yeah, okay.
Let's say this way. And so we prefer a centralized solution with clear access rules. And also it is Git is made and constructed to never lose something.
And not really useful for discussion.
This is really hard to delete outdated records out of a Git repo. So I will not say it is impossible. There are ways to do so, but it is really complicated, and you lose your comments in the Garrett, and this is also basically for our work to have those Garrett commands related to those Git entries. So we designed a web application with a small database on it in its back, and so we wrote a tender on this. We had a tender process and decided to have a community member, Marco, to develop, to make the development. And this is yes, it's the next one. We can have a look at it. What Marco just wrote.
You updated
I just leave the presentation and
a live demo.
Make a live demo. So this will be the new application web page.
The design might be updated.
The design might be updated. This is the page you get if you are not a member. Where does it know if you are a member or not? It's quite easy. It will be behind the single sign-on of the TDF. We had a long discussion in the beginning of this process. I didn't like it to have it like this, because it is a restriction of access to apply.
On the other hand, basically you need for everything nowadays a single sign-on.
So if you really contributed to LibreOffice, it will be really hard to avoid to have a single sign-on, because nearly every resource of the TDF you want to use is protected by this single sign-on. So it's most probably you have one. So it isn't that hard to sign on with this single sign-on account, and it has a lot of advantages. One of the advantages, it protects us from spam on this page, of course. The second advantage is this page normally will be pre-filled with your data. You see an empty page. I said this is a new application. Okay, there is nothing to pre-fill because you are not a member now. So someone we want to have here, Thorsten? No, wrong. Marco wrote that would work.
Oh, it could be fine.
Okay, we should change this. Contacts Italo. Okay. Italo. So we will change this design. This is far too big here.
Yeah.
And you have also a comment field. What we have,
What's new?
this is new one. We want to know if you're full age, just because there are some GDPR rules, especially for minors. So if you're not a full age, your name will not be shown on the list of the members on the web page in public. And the other aspect is, if you're not full age, following the legislation of your country, you are not able to run for to be a member of one of the bodies of the TDF, because if you get into the board of directors, there are some legal liabilities which you are not able to fulfill if you're not full age. At least you would have a written permission by your parents and all those stuff we want to avoid.
In this case, it's much easier for us. We don't have to ask again if you want to run.
Yeah. So we ask it here. So then we now can submit this.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! That's all. And next time this person comes on this page, his name and his age and everything, even his contact persons will be pre-filled, and so it's really easy to
much easier than by now
to reapply. So what's about how we are in time? Do we have some time? Oh yes, we have. So I have a second one from oops. This will be the piece of work where we're working with. So this is just
this is basically the design,
the back end
for members to accept or deny the applications.
Genau.
So please of all.
So we need all new. Yeah. So we see here Thorsten, which I just added by the application form, and we see here he's pending and it's not voted on. So this is the start of the process, and now each member of the membership committee who works with this can now do a vote, and this would be here.
Most emails will be automated, and we don't have to do the manual stuff.
Yeah, you see this is the details of the application of Thorsten, which is surely able to get it more compact on the page. And you see we have also a second button which was just missing on the web page. If we will ask you if you're more than 13 years old, but we will only ask this if you say you are not full age. So we didn't see that. We want to know if people, or let's say other way around, the TDF won't accept members which are below 13 years of age, because this has a lot of legal implications in Germany, and we want to avoid them. And I think it's quite fair. You must also be 13 or older to get a Facebook account. So I think that's okay.
Yeah.
So that's for the first. This is just a mock-up, as you could prefer, because the user interface is the last thing which is built. The functions are before that, and so this is the last one Marco will build. So okay, I'll close that again and go back. Oops. Okay, we have seen the draft. So what for your concerns? If you don't have one, get a single sign-on account. You may get every information on this wiki page. There is described how to get the account, and what it's worth of and everything. But I think most of us have one still.
Yeah.
So for the timeline, we hope we can
Start with a tool.
Start next year with the tool.
Yes.
For the first quarter of the next year, starting with March. Maybe we may use some functions of it. We haven't talked about a dashboard. Maybe we may start that before, but we don't know exactly.
And we still are not sure if we can migrate the data from Gerrit easily, and might use it for looking up for old stuff for a year.
Yeah.
We have problems.
So just for the tender process, just for those who are interested, we had a tender. We had overall six enterprises or persons running for this tender.
From all the world?
From all of the world. One was from India, one from Indonesia, another one from Germany, Düsseldorf, Italy. Marco comes from Italy, yes. Northern Italy. And we had a wide scope. The Düsseldorf company wants about 50,000 euros to build this thing.
It was too much.
This is far too much, and we hadn't pre-seen that, but okay. Yeah. So at the end, Marco Marinelli won, and
he's doing a really good job.
Yeah, it's really good, and it was especially pleasing me because he's also a community member, and we got some offers written down in docx format, so you may think about what these people thought of it.
So
it's to you. If you're not become a member,
exactly. At least in this room, everybody's a member.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
And if you don't know why, the next board of directors gets elected in a few weeks, and so.
If you want.
So hurry up! Hurry up! You have still about 1 week to apply to come into right at time to be part of these elections.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dennis and Uwe. And we actually have a question from Marco himself. And he's saying, show us what happens on the application page if you choose no on is full age.
Okay, we may try. You see, this is the 13 years and older. I didn't try that before, but I had enough confidence in our developers. Yep.
Interesting question. Is there a country where 13 years is full age?
No.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, okay. That seems to work.
That was it, or?
Yes, we don't have any. Or actually, Marco just said also try no there on over 13.
There's a really small test who says PDF cannot accept applications from persons younger than 13, and the commit button disappears magically.
Okay, yeah. So this turned into really a live testing session between the contractors.
We just got the mail an hour ago or something like that.
Yeah, half an hour ago it was just ready. Before that we had just a screen mock-up. So they did really hard work and quick work to get it working for the presentation.
Thanks for that.
Thanks, Marco.
Yeah.
Hooray for Marco then.
Hier irgendwo den Raum? No. Okay, some more questions? Here. Guck mal da, wir in picture.
Picture.
I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat room, so yeah, thanks a lot, and we'll wait some minutes for Gabriele's video to play.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hi, dear friends.
Okay, so next up we will have a presentation which is pre-recorded, done by Gabriele Ponzo. The title is Creating Professional Templates with LibreOffice Writer. And a reminder, if you have questions, please post them to the chat room and not in the Jitsi chat.
Good morning and welcome to my speech. I'll talk about how to create professional templates with LibreOffice Writer. I am Gabriele Ponzo and I am self-employed. My company, let's say, name is GPS. I'm a founder of Terni Linux User Group and also of Libre Italia Association, where I'm actually the vice president. I'm a full member and the former chairman of TDF's membership committee, and I'm certified LibreOffice professional trainer and migration expert. First of all, this is the agenda, so what we are going to talk about. And let's move on to the first point, so the importance of a corporate template. As you can see from the pictures I have included in this slide, you can see that these are three different documents, and I try to align them the best I could to let you see how they are different, how they look different from each other, And this is one of the problems of not having a corporate template, or at least not using it. So in this case, we can see that regardless to the let's say not proper use of the word processing, so spaces and tabs and whatever, but the logo, for example, is every time different as size, or at least as position, and also as a quality. As you can see here, this is really scaled and compressed. So while this is here, so these are three different documents from the very same entity, which is my municipality, and they look so different. This is just because they probably don't have, or at least they didn't use, our template. So this is one of the important points of having a corporate template and obviously to use them. Let's say we can talk about uniformity at least. So to give always the very same impression, the very same image of the entity of the company or whatever to the general public when deploying and delivering documents. What should it contain? So what's the meaning of having a template? Why? We already talked about the uniformity, so to give always the very same image of the company, of the entity or whatever. And but it is also comfortable and useful to have a template just to shorten times to produce a document, because you can imagine that if you have to produce several documents in a day, you can't every time start from scratch and write the company name, the address and whatever. So obviously it is really useful to have a template also for these reasons. So avoid repeating the typing of text, for example. And this applies to the header, the footer, and also the body of the document, which contain the very same things in time, for example, for the same kind of document, so you don't have to write again every time. You can prepare customized styles so that you don't have to waste time every time to format the text. So you may have styles already prepared to do this kind of job. And then it's useful to know that more than a template can be issued. What I mean is that obviously, especially big companies or entities, whatever, they may have different departments, for example. So in these cases, it could be useful to have different templates for departments. But it's worth to know that it is possible also to have templates from templates. So this means that we may want to have a general template, let's say, with the company name, with the stationary data and whatever in the heading and in the footer, for example. And then we may create templates from this template for different departments. Now let's see what can we do. How can we create a template, for example? And I've written down something that usually a template has and how to create it. So first of all, you have to create an empty document, and then we should add a header and a footer, and then write the introduction text and so on. Let's say that to shorten the time, I'd better start from my previous template, and I can profit of this, lecture to translate in English, for example. So this is my company template, and as you can see, it is in Italian at the moment. So let's translate it in English. Okay. So we already have a header and a footer. Let's have a check. So this is the header, and I guess it doesn't need to be translated because, mobile, telephone, fax, email. So it's international page in this way. It could be English as well as Italian. While the introduction text, so let's translate these. But in the meantime, we could also introduce the input fields or input lists. With Control F2, okay, with Control F2, we recall this dialog, which has among the functions, the possibility to recall this kind of objects. So in this case, we need input list. We may start from persons. So we could introduce, for example, Miss and Mrs., Mr., kind of estimated, I guess, To be honest, I'm not so much prepared on this. And let's stop here because I mean the topic is, I think, is clear. So inserting this, I will have the opportunity to choose among those titles. Now we could also add something like the address here, and in this case we will use our input field. So reference company address. Okay. Insert. Now it prompts for the default value, Inc. or Ltd, I don't know. Okay, so this is a quick, demo of preparing. Now, here obviously it would be subject. Then I would just remove this. I have already this kind of data here, but it deserves to be explained how to insert such data. I'm talking about the page number and the total count of pages. It is really simple. You can use it from here, insert field, and the most used are here. So page number, for example, / insert field page count. Those are really common, so you can use it here really easily. But if you miss something here, you can go here with Control F2 again. And then, as you can see on the document tab, you have several fields, several data and properties of the document itself. Page number again, and so on, and sender, statistics, and whatever. In this case, we will just insert the page count again. But if we want to, for example, insert templates, I want to state in the file I will issue the template name, which is something that big companies used to do. So, for example, I could do something like file name here, or template name, much better, insert. And this is an automatic field, obviously. We saw how to, well, I already had the header, but it's easy to understand how to do that. The footer we modified to introduce some document field and document info. We missed a placeholder. To be honest, it is already there, but I just show you how to do that. So you go to functions, and you have placeholder, and you may specify, the kind of placeholder. Especially, usually it is a text, and you can't, specify if the text will be a date or something like something else. But you may specify if it is not a text, so table, frame, image, or object. This means that for example, if you specify an image, when you click on the placeholder, it just prompts you for the inserting of an image. So it can be useful sometimes. Say that in this case, I just specify in ISO format, for example, and the reference is date, and then I insert it. Okay. And this is nothing more than just a recolor, something to you just have to you could replace the text here, but it would stay in this format. So to be honest, the placeholder, just remember that you have to write a particular kind of text, but usually you just overwrite it. I will replace in the real document something like and whatever. So what I'm going to show you now is how to introduce a conditional section in this case. So first of all, we have to insert a variable. So set variable, text. The name of variable is project, let's say, project name. The value is Alice. And then I just hit insert. Okay. So let's move this away. Now what I do here is insert section, sorry. Okay. Section. Then I just call it sect Alice, Alice description, task, and then I use a condition here, which is project name. I saw that the hyphen was removed, so project name equals Alice or Alice. Or to be honest, what would be better, because this is the hide condition, so I would write something like differs from, and then also this. This means that I have to show this section just and only if the project name is Alice. So let's introduce this section. Then this is auto text. I don't know if you know it. It's just I wrote a word like which was lorem and then F3, and this is, let's say, the section to be shown if the value of this variable is Alice. Then we could do the very same thing here with insert section, and then let's call it sect. I don't know. Okay. Then hide, and then it was project name. Is not Mickey. Okay, so insert, and then we can't see it just because the value of the variable at the moment is not Mickey. So let's double click on it. As you can see now, the dialog prompts for the value of the new value of the variable. So I just write down Mickey. And then now we can see this other section. So the purpose of this kind of conditional paragraphs is, for example, in cases recently I had to prepare a company template where there was a description of several projects, but instead of having the user to delete all the projects which were not mentioned on that particular issue of the template. So let's say, for example, in that case, it was an offer or a tender request. So there was the description of the project where the tender was, intended and meant to be implemented. So the previous version of the template contained all the descriptions of all the projects. In this case, I kept all those descriptions, but I automatically let the system hide the ones which are not mentioned and not in the subject. So let's say that okay, this is the description of the Mickey project. So as you can see, now if I write something like I don't know, something different from the both, as you can see, no one of that section are displayed as shown. But if I match, okay, the name of an existing section, it will be shown. So this is really interesting, isn't it? And the reason to do that, again, is to automate as much as possible the work of the creation of the document. So indeed, why and when to automate and lock contents. It's really sad to say, but most of the users are not skilled. I mean, it's not their fault. They have not been prepared. They have not been, trained. So they don't know how to use the word processors as they should. So at the end, it's much better if they don't touch the document too much and leave it the way it is to avoid, messing up with it. So in this case, you avoid the mess up, but also you ease their work and speed up the work because they just have to choose some field, as we saw, and automatically the rest of the document is, let's say, done. And we will also see how to lock the contents, because, for example, we could also, let's say that I could do this. Select all this content. Then I could insert a section again, and I call it header. And then I could protect it with a password. This is the common usage, but I won't, because now at the moment it's just for demo purposes. So, and then I just, okay, it is protected, right? I go to sections and unprotect it, and then I just paste all the, all of these. If you do this at the very first moment, you can avoid having this spare paragraph. By the way, I just deleted. So at the moment, and now I'm going to protect that section without a password at the moment. But as you can see, you can't write inside it. You can't move the logo. And also, please notice that it is something useful sometimes also for positioning a logo, not in the header or not. What I mean is that, let me unprotect it. And then let's go to the gallery, and let's take such as these. I will bring it here and then reduce it this way. Oops. Okay. And then move it here. If I move the anchor within, let me do just cut and paste. As you can see now, the anchor is within the section. I can move the object here, which is outside the area of the section, but when I lock the section again in this way, as you can see, I can't move, I can't resize these, but also this one. And this is really interesting. I've been doing this for a company, local but international company. So let's continue. There are some unclear situation here, because you've seen that I have to achieve that behavior of hiding sections. I inserted a variable, which is fine, but is something that probably is not the best situation. And what I mean is that, as you have seen, you have to double click on it to set the value, and then this dialog is kind of technical dialogue, so the common user could be how to say somehow feel lost in such a technical dialogue, while you have seen that in this case, for example, this is not such a technical. This is just one choice, and then there is just this edit button, but it is really easy to use. So it would be much easier and better to use this one in particular, because this is an input field, so you have freedom of you have the freedom to write whatever you want. You don't have to choose, while this is an input list, so you have to choose something. So I could use this to insert the name of the project, and then basing of that name hide the section as we have seen. But the problem is that usually it doesn't create a variable. So I don't have a variable to mention in the expression for hiding the section. And this is something really particular, because there is no time to show you, but if you first create a variable and then hide it, and then create an input field mentioning that variable, sometime you can achieve such a behavior. You can see here, where's the pointer? Okay. For example, I tried many times, the very first input field, there wasn't any variable connected, let's say, related. Then I declared a variable var2, and then I tried with the input field, and I didn't succeed. Then I declared a third variable. I recalled it as a variable. Then I created an input field, let's say connected somehow to the variable 3. And then I was able to recall the value, even if the variable value was this, while this was the text written in the input field. So some strange behavior, or at least not that clear, even for an experienced user. But by the way, and anyway, there is no way to associate, let's say, a variable to an input list, and this is really sad. Here, I just reported the code of the document on this document. Okay, so you may see in the XML code generated by LibreOffice Writer what happened when I created the first variable, when I declared a variable, and sorry, the input field, the variable, and whatever, and so far and so forth. And here, this is a manual attempt to trick it, let's say. So I just, tried to recall manually, because this text I just wrote manually, just copying and pasting, obviously. But it didn't work, as you can see, because I after that I modified the chosen item of the list, and recalling didn't vary, just reported the thing written in the code. So this is almost unclear, and I would like to to improve and to go deeper with the developers possibly. Then so this is what I have just explained. Let's say that if you just have to recall an item, you could use a trick like these. You can set cross-reference. So set cross-reference, and this was, what was it? Title. Okay. And then you create a reference over that, and then you may recall it whatever you want. Here, for example, insert reference, reference itself, so miss. So if I vary here and I choose, for example, estimated, now you can see estimated. But this is a trick. I mean, it's a workaround. It doesn't work. It is really dirty, just because, okay, it works just to report the text and it's fine. But if you want to base an expression to hide a section, for example, like we saw before, you can't. If you have an input list, you can't. With the input field, you may have a success, and I did it, but it is tricky to achieve it. So finally, let's say that we have created more or less a template. Let's see how to save it as a template, and what's the behavior then. So, yeah, you have two ways to save it as a template. The first one is via the menu. There is a templates, and then you can do this, save as a template, and it prompts for the category and whatever. This is probably the best way, especially if you are not so experienced. Otherwise, you may just do save as and choose as the kind of type of document the template this way, and let's say GPS N. Okay. Let's see what happens. Now the document is saved. I close it because this is a template itself. If I go to the folder, it was document, and okay, I double click on it. As a template, what you'll notice is that, first of all, here, the name of the document is untitled, because the property of a template is that when you open it, it just issues a new document based on the template. And as you can see, this a really good feature is that when you open the template, it prompts you for the fields. So the very first thing was the title, but the problem is that the position of the dialog. In this case, I can't see what is that. I mean, yes, I have to choose among Miss, Mrs., Mr., and estimated. Okay, but to place it where? Here. The problem is that in this case. So let's say that I choose estimated, and then it prompts you again for the next field, which is really fine, which is really good. But again, the window, the dialog window, I've set on the position where it was before. So I have to move it again, and so on. And now I could write SRL, for example. This is Italian, okay? And that's it. As you can see, it didn't prompt for this because this was a variable and not a field. again. So it's really beautiful, this feature to prompting the user for the fields to fill in, but it could be, and should be, from my point of view, improved, and not only about the position of the windows, but also for the highlighting, and I show you why. Okay, and I open many field examples, OTT. Okay, these I have prepared in advance. I'll talk about how to create professional. Okay, now it prompts for the very first field. First of all, as you can see, as before, it is overlapping and is hiding the fields itself. But by the way, now it is prompting for with or without. Now it is simple just because there are many, but with or without, you can see this is with. But when there are really many of them, there is no highlighting, so there is no way to understand which is the field you are prompted for. So for example, I choose without, and then again move it, and field or list, let's say list, and again stays or remains, stays, and again dialog, I don't know, modal window, for example, and that's it. So I've been able to fill in all the fields, and it was really good, but it can't be improved. I hope you enjoyed this talk and you learned something, and I thank you so much for attending, and I'm obviously free to answer any question in the specific room, and see you again.
Okay, there we have it. And Gabriele was having some connection issues, but he will be joining just for a small addition, I guess. We have a bit over a minute of time.
Hi, I'm here. Sorry for the delay.
Yeah, you're on time, but you're actually...
Here I am, I'm sorry.
Okay, cool. So Gabriele, you had something to add.
Oh, yes, it was just that, to be more precise, to link a variable to the input field, and just to that, because as I explained, it is not possible to relate to an input list. But you can relate to an input field, but to do that, you have to first create a variable from the dialog on variable tab. Then you can hide it, or wait, you have to create a variable. Then you create an input field from the variable tab, because the input field appears both in functions and in variable tab. So you have to go to variable tab, create the input field, and select among the variables you created the right one. And then you could also delete, let's say in the document, the issuing of the variable itself, because once you have used with the input field, is no longer needed, no longer required in the document. But it's just a side note, and that way you can relate. You may put the content or what you input in the field within the variable, and then use it for the conditions, for example, or the conditional paragraphs or whatever. That was just a small addendum, let's say, because I was probably not clear for that. And also there was another little mistake, but it was really minor. I think I'm out of time, so if someone has to, indeed, if someone has some question, you could reach me, in the chat room. So thank you for attending.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gabriele. And indeed, now it's time for the presentation about LibreOffice Calc survey. It will be given by Maria Berry and Heiko Tietze.
Hi. So thank you for joining me today. So my talk will not be very long, but I hope you will find some interesting results from it. from our survey. So let me share my screen.
Okay, I can see your screen.
But I think it's just the browser. So let me try switching to, can you see the presentation?
Did you share the whole monitor, or?
It doesn't let me. And then when I shared the LibreOffice tab, it failed. So let me try again. Window share.
You can do a slideshow in a window. So you don't need to share the full screen. When you go to slideshow, slideshow setting, there's a presentation mode, second frame, and instead of full stream, you might run it in a window. This window for sure can be shared via Jitsi.
So you would need to direct me one more time. So I'm in the LibreOffice in the presentation right now. So,
Slideshow on top.
Slideshow, okay.
Slideshow setting.
Yes.
Presentation mode is second frame in a window.
Okay.
Radio button, okay. Then just start the presentation. Then you get a window. Share this window.
So I think I did that. Can you see my screen?
Nope.
So I'm running on Mac, so maybe that's could be the problem. So let me share again. Window.
It looks.
Okay.
Right
so,
on. Now we see.
That's my screen. That's how it looks when I share my screen. So as a fallback, you can send me the presentation and I click through it, or this one is a draft, and maybe while Maria is trying to find a solution, I can entertain with a little bit introduction. Maria joined the team a couple of months ago, and we were wondering what she can do. She was interested in Caulk and was thinking about to aggregate a little bit the tickets on Bixilla to see what people want, or how people want to enhance Caulk. This is, well, we do have this kind of aggregation that is called a meta ticket, and it is still not simple to guess what a user really wants, what they need, and how the scenario is. So we came up with the idea to run a survey similar to what we did from the design team a couple of years ago for Draw. This was a very interesting survey as it revealed a large number of options. What users do with Draw, and we were a little bit in hope for a similar result. So we run a survey. This one. We run a survey on our survey platform with 3 pages. The analysis was done with R for the quantitative data, and we did the qualitative data based on quantitative with the idea that you are not really aware what you want from an application. If you're getting asked what do you like on Jitsi, how should Jitsi improve, it is not so easy to answer. But if you ask, would it be nice to have a better presentation mode, maybe people are, it's easier for people to reply. So we did this combination of questions, and now it's Maria's show. She's much better in speaking than me.
Sure. So I just sent you the updated file because I added a couple of slides. I shared it with you with Telegram. I'm still having problems with it does not let me share. When I select window, the message shows failed. Yeah, so I just added a couple of slides. So we'll start with a summary. So we surveyed 1,230 people to learn more about the users of Caulk, as Heiko mentioned. The results were not surprising, but the survey did give us an idea of the most significant pain points of Caulk users and where efforts to improve the software should be allocated. As a part of the survey, we've administered a system usability scale or SAS questionnaire, which is a standardized questionnaire used to measure usability of a software. The SAS score generally ranges from 0 to 100, and the overall score for Caulk was 71.4. This is considered as an above average score. Top reported pain points for survey participants included usability, especially around pivot tables and charts. People mentioned that these features were more difficult to use or limited compared to Excel. Another pain point related to usability was feature discoverability. Participants reported that it is sometimes challenging to find features they need. Survey results also indicated that Caulk users want to see a better compatibility with Excel. And one way to address this issue is to introduce new functions such as XLOOKUP. Another reported pain point was speed and performance, especially while handling large data sets, as well as stability of the software and UI design. So we can go to the next slide now. So here we have an overview of characteristics and demographics of our respondents. It is important to note that the survey was advertised on subreddits dedicated to Linux. So our data is skewed towards users of Linux. I think the other graphs are pretty self-explanatory, so I will not go into more detail to describe them. So slide 4. So not surprisingly, most participants reported to employ Caulk for personal and business use. And the majority of our participants reported to use Caulk almost every day or rather frequently. Okay. Also, not surprisingly, Excel and Google Sheets were reported as some of the most popular alternative data-related softwares, as you can see on this graph. 30% of survey participants reported to use R as well, and another major category of 10% was Python. And on the right, you can see a bigger list of different other tools that people use. But the number of people that use them is relatively low compared to Excel, Google Sheets, R, and Python. So these graphs show the most, I guess, common data sizes reported participants of our survey. And the most common file sizes, as we can see from these graphs, is under 5 megabytes or under 1,000 rows of data. However, some people report using Caulk with rather large data sets, such as over 1 million rows or about 1,000 megabytes. So the most popular reported use cases for Caulk are data storage and tracking, finance and accounting, as well as data analysis and calculations. So I just named the top three features on this graph. Survey participants reported to use Caulk for personal finances or budgeting, as well as business accounting. Some of the data people reported to track include health-related data, such as blood pressure measurements, expenses, time, and inventory. We can go to the next slide. So in terms of formulas and calculations, the most widely used functions are mathematical, logical, and date functions. Array and database functions are less common. So this graph shows how important certain Calc features are to our respondents. And the gray bars show the percentage of respondents that are not familiar with a particular feature. For example, quite a few survey respondents are not familiar with scenarios or goal seek. Not surprisingly, formulas and calculations are reported as some of the most important features, as you can see from this graph, and Heiko points this out. What's interesting is that some features, such as pivot tables and data validity, that be not familiar to some users, are rated as quite important by users that are familiar with that particular feature. Okay, now we can go to the next slide. So to me, now we get to probably the most interesting part. So we get to the system usability scale, or SAS questionnaire. And SAS, as I mentioned in the introduction, is a standardized questionnaire used to measure usability of a software. Our survey results indicate that SAS score for Caulk is quite high. It is 71.4, which is considered above average as indicated by other similar studies. For example, the average SAS score from 500 studies conducted by Jeff Sauer, who is one of the prominent usability practitioners, was 68. So having a score of 71.4 is quite good. However, here it is important to note that although the overall SAS score for Caulk was 71, the average SAS score for Caulk beginners was slightly lower. It was 68. And this score or result is consistent with some feedback we've seen from the survey. We've noticed that survey participants reported that Caulk is a little bit difficult to use when transitioning from Excel. So if a beginner that is used to Excel tries to use LibreOffice, they may face some difficulties. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So we asked participants, what do you expect from Caulk in the future? Most answers evolved around improvements such as better compatibility with Excel, usability improvements, especially around pivot tables and charts, design, as well as speed and performance, especially when working with large data sets. And this graph lists other additional features or improvements that people mentioned, and I just named the top ones. So this is the first part, and then this is the second part. So like learnability was also one of them, and learnability is tied with usability and feature discoverability.
I think we should mention that what 8% means. It is a bit unclear from the scale. This category is an extraction from an open question. People respond, I think LibreOffice should develop on the usability, it should be faster, and I would appreciate if pivot tables were easier to handle. This person would receive entry for pivot table, one for usability, and maybe one for performance. And from the total number of subjects, the percentage reported here is the number of people, the total number who are reporting in a category that we extract from the open question post hoc. It's people say quite a lot if you ask them freely, and the challenge is to aggregate everything into meaningful categories. That's something that Maria did with a great effort, and it took a lot of time, and this the actual result here. Sorry for interrupting you.
Oh, no, it was very good addition. Thank you. So I think now we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so this slide again shows the list of improvements that people suggested. And this particular slide will include, as Heiko will go further, some quotes from participants that we extracted from the survey. So, for example, in terms of keyboard shortcuts, one participant reported that copying, cutting, moving of cells should be simplified. And the ribbon and toolbar interface should also be improved with most used functions. In terms of help documentation, participant reported that a lot of information, especially for non-trivial things, is not detailed enough or is obsolete. Conditional formatting should not fragment when rows added. And removing duplicates from a dataset is much more cumbersome than in Excel. Scrolling provide an option to, So improved function wizard.
Going a little bit faster, it's perhaps better when I speak. It's a couple of examples. You can read it or glance over it to get an impression how people report here when they get asked what they expect from the future. And that's what they report and how we collect the bigger categories out of it. The character styles within a cell. People want a lot of formatting within a cell. That's quite, well, not really surprising, but Caulk is also used as a kind of a layouting tool for tabular data, let's say. Speed is quite often reported here. It's not sorted. The response is just to point out from we're going through the reports, and these are just examples that came up here. Well, yes, conditional formatting is something that bothers people quite a lot, and they talk about pivot table. Sure. Well, very precise response. Solver needs to store data, and they ask for wizards. The chart wizard is something that can be improved. Of course, a lot can be improved. The documentation is something that needs some love. Speed, again, here's an example with the size, and that's all. Maria, your turn.
Yeah, so basically these were just examples based on what people reported, and basically most improvements can fall under the 6 categories. And we can go to the next slide. So yeah, so based on the comments we've seen, here's some recommendations for usability improvements. So one would be to simplify UI to make the software easier to use for beginners, however still offer more complex UI with advanced functionality on demand for advanced and intermediate users. Improve learnability by educating users about the workflow with the wizards, documentation, and examples. I think this is especially important for pivot tables, formulas, charts, and Python macros, as these seem to be the features people have most problems with. It also could be that some of these are most commonly used, and that's why we saw more comments about these features. Also, improve feature discoverability. One good suggestion we've seen regarding this issue is a global search functionality. And lastly, improve compatibility with Excel. For example, introduce Excel functions that may be currently missing in Caulk, such as XLOOKUP function.
So click to exit. Thanks, Maria. I think we have time for a few questions.
Yes, indeed. Thanks a lot, and thanks for the work. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat room, but I guess we could take them live here in Jitsi if anyone has something to say. Well, if not, then we'll take a short break before the next talk, and it's the final one in this room.
Thanks for listening. We will report about the results in the design blog and, of course, share the presentation. So maybe if more questions arise, the design people are available on Telegram and Matrix and IRC and everywhere in the world. Just ask.
And now, as we close the questions, of course, we have a question. It's from Rafael Lima, and he's asking, there's a lot of work to be done in improving Caulk. Could it be done with some sort of grants to fund these improvements? And yes, obviously, some of this could be done by money taken from the Document Foundation budget. And this is decided by the Engineering Steering Committee. So anyone can propose budget items and they will be evaluated by the committee and then presented to the board for tendering. So everything is possible.
And the question about prioritization from Shinji. I think, Maria, you wanted to put these results together with what we have in the bug tracker, the meta tickets, and generate some kind of preference list, priority list. Is this a plan?
Yeah, that was the idea for the survey, to see where people report most problems and then take the results and prioritize the bug list. So for example, if people struggle with pivot tables, maybe the first thing to do is to look bugs related to pivot tables or charts, for example.
I got a question in private by Flywire. A reasonable sample of users? Of course not. That's what we tried to show in the first picture here. Oops, sharing again. This one. It would be a great world if the majority of users is using Linux as operating systems, green one, and Windows is down to, let's say, 30%. I'm not against Windows, by the way. No, just kidding. It shows that our sample is not representative for the whole users of LibreOffice. But that's a problem that we always have. We cannot get or we cannot speak to the real user. We have to use some social media, some communication channels where the usual suspects are always addressed, and that are the nerds, and that are the people who are more advanced users, more interested in this technical stuff, and that's something we see quite often, but there's no other opportunity to get a large number of users other than making the application to call home, unfortunately.
Yeah, because I also think that if we would do like a representative sample, we would need to compensate users, and for that we would need additional budget.
Okay, Gabriel, slide 9. That's a Likert scale. Likert scale means you ask with a number from 1 to 5 between the low or the minor anchor and the high value. In this case, it was how important is a feature to you? Not important at all, 1, or very important. And the subjects were asked using formulas and calculation, how important is it? And most people say, absolutely, I use formulas every day. Of course, you do so. When it comes to pivot table, many users who report on this question reply with either very important, the highest category, or the one below, 5 or 4. That's the two greenish, bluish, whatever color it is. But at the same time, we have a good number of people who choose the extra category of I'm not familiar with the feature. I have never heard about a pivot table. I don't know what it is, so I cannot say if it's important to me or not. That means here you cannot read it. Probably it is 20% of users of subjects reported no, I don't know pivot table. That's quite a lot. The percentage is deducted here from 100. So when it comes to scenarios, 50% of users of subjects, do not know what a scenario is. 20% or so when it comes to pivot table. But the remaining 80%, they said, this, absolutely, that's important. Similar overimposed graph. It is a beautiful graph. It took me a week to produce it. Just kidding. Yeah, why not? We can do a similar survey with Impress again. Perhaps although with writer, of course. Why not for all modules? Answering such a survey takes some time, and we cannot occupy people for half an hour with yes, one by one. That's the right way, as you suggest on IRC. And after some time, I think we can continue this way of questioning to the user, asking users how they like the application, where they see the most relevant additions. Yeah. Could you address a different audience? I cannot. This survey is based on reports from 1,200 people, and I don't have access to that many average users. I cannot just ask at the supermarket people, how do you like the pivot table feature? I cannot make the application call home. I cannot run a survey starting from the application. So a bit difficult. It would be nice. And I'm afraid Ilmarie is cutting off the session now for the next speaker.
Yeah, actually, we are still waiting for the next speaker to enter the room.
You want me to entertain the audience?
Yes, some freestyle rap is always welcome.
French.
But yeah, French preferably.
Of
But
course.
yeah, because the next talk is not pre-recorded either, so it will be live. And I think Italo is maybe having some technical issues.
Flywire asked me on IRC maybe surveys could be included with new releases. That's what I tried to answer. I believe if you use LibreOffice, you are interested in this free and open idea of software, and you explicitly do not want software to generate data for some weird organization behind. If you know that TDF are the good guys, yes, maybe you want it, but basically you use an application to have your privacy and to not get in contact somehow. Sure, we can have the discussion, and we had it in the past. It was about user metrics. It was to get real data from how people access unicommands. It's the functionality behind every command, or everything what you click in the UI. That's a unicommand, and we could, in theory, collect this information and send it to some service that collects all the interaction from users. Well, there was a tender a couple of years ago to improve this. And meanwhile, we removed the functionality from the program to store the usage data. It's hard to imagine for me that we can restart this effort and get real user data. And if it comes to surveys, nothing is unimpossible. Of course, we could include some link to a survey in a release, but do we want it?
Yes, another info bar.
Sure. Well, it's a good question, and I cannot answer. I would love to get better data, more data. It's always fun to analyze. It is not so much fun, or it was not so much fun for Maria. She did the analysis of the open questions, and I think you can imagine that reading through all the different reports from users with not always perfect English, and to aggregate everything into some categories, bring it together, and collect the user knowledge into something that can be reported. That is quite a lot of work, so big challenge, and a lot of something that the kudos, the applause should go to.
Okay, we're still missing Italo, unfortunately. But as his talk is the last one, I guess we'll keep waiting for some more time.
I will try to call Italo. Italo should arrive in a minute. I just got him on the phone.
Great. Hello, Italo.
Hello, sorry, that shows that I need 1 week, 1 month of holidays, of vacations. I was in room 2 waiting, and but stupid me, no problem. Anyway, I have 1 hour, so that's not an issue. I will immediately share my screen and start the talk. Okay.
And the talk is about state of the project
Yeah,
and
exactly.
marketing plan update.
Exactly. So probably as I was registering, recording room 2, I got confused by the number of the rooms. Okay, so you should see my slides now.
Indeed.
And I will immediately start. So let's. There are quite a large number of numbers that I will provide. So it's. I will have an overview of most of them. Then, of course, I will make the slides available so that everyone can see the slides. And if anyone has questions, specific questions on those slides, please let me know, and I can provide further explanation. So first one is no numbers, of course, is just to show where open source is today. Is really kind of the Swiss knife of software. There are many areas where open source is. In general, we are about knowledge, innovation, open standards. We are part of open government, and of course, we are in the open business, open cloud, and open content area. So LibreOffice is quite pervasive in this sense. I have already shown these slides this morning, and so I will not provide additional comments on this, apart from the fact that the growth forecasted by analysts is actually encouraging for our project, because we are in a market that is growing, not 2 digits, 1 digit, but is a very mature market. So a very mature market still growing, and with a very interesting figure of $31.3 billion forecasted in 2025, which is not a lot of time from today. This is more or less the trend from analysts. As you see, is a flat trend, but it's a plus 5% every year from 2021 to 2025. So again, encouraging data, and which show a positive outlook for our project. And if we look at other data provided by analysts, we see expected changes in software usage. We see that while proprietary software is decreasing, enterprise open source and community open source are increasing. We are both in the community open source and enterprise open source. So again, nice outlook for our market and for our project. And again, these numbers are from analysts. These are, let's say that data numbers behind these charts are not shared in public. Charts are shared in public as comments to analyst articles or blogs. So one of the things that is rather clear with open source is that is less expensive than software as a service. This is especially true if we look at software as a service provided by the proprietary world, so provided, for instance, by Microsoft with Office 365. Of course, we have a higher cost in the short term because of the migration cost. And the migration cost change a little bit based on where you position the exit cost from the proprietary format. Actually, the exit cost should be cost of the proprietary platform, but of course, there is not agreement on this point. Proprietary companies say that the exit cost from their lock-in is a cost of the migration, and therefore this slides in specific shows the exit cost from the lock-in platform as cost of the open source platform, which in my opinion is wrong. So this spike would be the first spike that you see would be lower. If we compare open source and proprietary software, there are a few people that say that proprietary is better. As you can see, the only area where the proprietary is better than open source is in support and consulting services. We try to face this with our certification project, and hopefully we, at least for LibreOffice, we should have a better judgment or a better evaluation than this 36% of people that think that open source is better than proprietary software. But of course, this shows that support and consulting are probably a weakness of open source. If we look at the total cost of ownership, speed of development, quality of code, security, performance and stability, you see that that there is almost a global agreement about the advantages of open source. And if you look at total cost of ownership is 25%, quality of code is 68%, and security is 61%. So when people tell you that open source is less secure, quality is not as good as, show them these slides to these people. Open source, again, I've shown this morning, number from 2017, but we can say that these numbers have not changed. The open source productivity has a 16% market share. If we look at planning to use, it should be 18%, but let's be conservative and say that is still 16%. In that 16%, of course, there is not just LibreOffice, but if we listen to what Microsoft has told us, these are words, so unfortunately there's nothing written, but I don't think that we will get such a comment from Microsoft in writing. But Microsoft has told us while talking to them that LibreOffice is the most requested open source software by Windows 10 users. And this is one of the reasons why Microsoft wants LibreOffice to be in their next generation of Windows Store, which will be announced soon, and it's going to be the Windows 11 store. Which is the usage of open source suite by company size. We see that 70% is for small companies, but in some European areas, 1 to 100, it's not just a small company. In some cases, it's also a medium-sized company if we think at low labor-intensive markets. 16% by medium-sized companies and 12% by large companies. As you see, definitely higher than Apple iWork, and comparable in general at Google offering. Of course, Microsoft is on a different scale, but I think that Microsoft is on a different scale, not just because it's Microsoft and the investment on the product, but also because the history behind Microsoft Office, which says that Microsoft Office is there as an office suite since we could say almost forever, and at least for the last 30 years. So of course, Microsoft, in addition to investment, advertising, lobbying, has also the habit of people in that push their market share. And now some numbers about LibreOffice. These are the commits in 2021, year to date. It's mid-September. Of course, this is just a trend week by week of the commits. If we look at the commits by organization, these are the numbers. Unknown are volunteers. It's of course is difficult to attribute a name to people, to volunteers. So as the slide is based on organization name, of course, volunteers, organizations are unknown, and therefore you find unknown in two different points in this slide. What you can see is that volunteers are a very important percentage, and then there are Collabora, Red Hat, TDF, and Allotropia. Allotropia is growing, as you've heard from Torsten, is a very young company. And then we have, for instance, NI, as said, is the Hungarian group of people working for, especially in the interoperability area and providing patches in the interoperability area. They are Hungarian government employees. It's the diversity is important, and I think we are confirming this diversity quarter after quarter. Weblate contributions. So we have started recently. We have added the Weblate to our dashboard. So these are Weblate contributions. What is important is that on Weblate there is a large number of contributors, and is growing because we have migrated our tool recently, and we can monitor Weblate while it was not possible to monitor the previous tool as it is with Weblate. With time going by, we will be able to provide more numbers about Weblate contributions. At the moment, what you can see is that we have a regular amount of contributors every week. This is Bugzilla. So this is the situation about Bugzilla issues by status. We have a number of resolved bugs, the green one. Then we have the unconfirmed, which means that they are not triaged, and then you see bugs that need info, they have to be verified, and so on. It's very important to keep this curve under control, and as you see from this chart, we are managing, thanks to our Q&A volunteers, we are managing this task. This is Ask LibreOffice. Of course, at the moment, now we are using this course and not Ask as in the previous historical situation. But we have the panel is showing the trend for this. We have a number of questions and a very and a comparable number of answers and some comments. So what we can say is that on average, what is asked is also answered in hopefully in a satisfactory way for the user. Of course, the number of potential issues with LibreOffice in terms of the wideness of usage is incredible. If you think that a productivity suite like LibreOffice is used in potentially every industry, in every environment, and by every class of users, from the new user to the sophisticated user. LibreOffice community in the last 5 years, I've already shown this morning, rather steady number of contributors, of course with some fluctuation which are seasonal, but what is important is that the number of core and regular is rather stable over time. This is last 5 years. And now about donations. It's updated up to August. As you see, we introduced a banner showing every 180 days and asking for donations in September 2019. You see the difference. The number of donation has increased by at least by 30% on average, and in addition we had the influx of the lockdown, because LibreOffice with the lockdown was downloaded and used by an increasing number of people. Donations per quarter. The first quarter is traditionally the second quarter, sorry, is traditionally lower one, but as you see, we have fluctuations, and during the last 2 years, the quarters have increased dramatically over the previous years. These are monthly donations, the trend of monthly donations. As you see, in 2021, 2020 was the best year ever. 2021 is more or less aligned. We have some months which are better, some months which are lower, but at the end, the numbers are comparable. Let's see what happens in the next few months, but we can anticipate that this year will be a good year for donations. These are the numbers for PayPal, the one-time versus recurring. Just notice that in September 2019, recurring were 26%, and in August 21, they are 44%. Of course, the amount is lower because the recurring donations are usually tiny amounts, but what is important is that there is a constant flow of donations based on recurring donation, which is very important for the stability of the project. And this is Stripe, so credit cards, again, 16% in early 2020 to 36% in August 21. So an increase in this case and an increase in the amount also. This is in euro. If we look at the number of recurring donations, this is PayPal plus Stripe, so PayPal plus credit cards. You see that we have a regular increase of the number, and this is the amounts. Of course, the amounts do not correspond to the number because donations, one donation can be $1 and the other one can be $10. So these are the total recurring amounts, PayPal and Stripe. And these are the total donation amount. So these are donation amounts at the end of each month. As you see, for the last 2 years, we have always, with the exception of 1 month, we have always been over 80,000 euro per month, and in some cases over 100,000 euro per month, which provides the project stability. And by the way, all these data are published regularly. Our ledgers are regularly published on the website. These are downloads. So downloads in 2020 and downloads in 2021. We are ahead about 1 million downloads. 2020 was our best download year ever. And so we will probably end 2021 1 or 2 million above 2020. These are downloads per month in 2021. And these are downloads versus donations in 2021. So you see, in some cases, especially when we have announcements, we have a spike of donations, which in some cases it's makes donations go over downloads in terms of proportion, like it happened in for the announcement of 7.1, but also the announcement of 7.2 created a spike. In general, we have one donation every 300 downloads, which is could be better, but it's not a bad number. And this is 2021 downloads LibreOffice versus Apache OpenOffice. So we, apart from 1 week where we were really close, LibreOffice is always ahead, significantly ahead of OpenOffice. So we probably we will end up the year with a weekly number of download which is more than double than Apache OpenOffice, which unfortunately gets still a very large number of downloads, but at the moment we are significantly ahead. And now let's talk about the marketing plan and the activities that are related to the marketing plan. So we have I have announced, and we have now a LibreOffice ecosystem logo that is something which will allow us to, for instance, to add or create something for partners of the ecosystem companies to show to the outside world the reach of LibreOffice. We have companies which are either advisory board member or they are active in the ecosystem, but there are companies, and I can make, for instance, the example of Nextcloud. Nextcloud is not an ecosystem company, is not a partner of LibreOffice, but is a partner of Collabora. So I think we can have these companies listed somewhere as partner of our ecosystem companies to show that LibreOffice is a lot more pervasive than its physical or virtual presence. Another idea is to create a specific certification for partners, and these are still to be discussed, but of course is something which can further expand the LibreOffice awareness in the market. An activity that we should work is to get testimonials and case studies. It's not an easy task. For some strange reasons, many companies do not want to be mentioned or featured as using a software or an hardware, but we can probably convince them to help us. We should have a better representation of where LibreOffice is used with examples. And once we have more of this, we can definitely work with Join Up, the European Union newsletter, to have testimonials and case studies listed on the open source European website. We also are, we have already started with a grant, but we will increase our work with educational organization. We have a program in place which are university ambassadors that unfortunately was postponed because of the pandemic, but we will definitely start to get back in touch with universities after the conference. The next university semester starts probably in a few days, and if students are able to get back into university, physically back into university, they will also be able to work with their peers to on a program to increase the usage and awareness of LibreOffice in the university. So LibreOffice has advantages under the educational point of view, because it's not profiling students, is not stealing data without telling the user. So there is an advantage, but on the other hand, there is also the need to explain this advantage and to make this advantage more popular in the educational organization. Similar in NGOs, Microsoft gives NGO basically the product for free. The reality is that we are a charity, so we share the value of most NGOs, and therefore we should be appealing to NGOs if only they knew more about LibreOffice. We need to make a dent into the NGO market and explain to NGOs that if they support LibreOffice, they will also support the NGO idea and ethical objectives in general, more than what they do if they use the Microsoft Office project. So in Africa, there are NGOs which collect PCs and give them for free to people or to local organization. In many cases, they install pirated version of software, because in many cases they ignore open source software. So we should reach to these NGOs. Actually, the first person with LibreOffice certification, so with the non-professional certification, is an American living in Eswatini. Eswatini is a country inside South Africa. Is an enclaved country in South Africa. Used to be called in a different way, or Swaziland, but because of their languages is called Eswatini now. And he is exactly doing this. So he is installing LibreOffice on PCs that are given for free to local schools and local organizations. We can leverage work from home. Numbers say that with the lockdown, more people have downloaded LibreOffice. So we should make these people aware of the advantages of LibreOffice. At the moment, many of these people have downloaded LibreOffice just because it was free. And this is okay, but on the other hand, we should make a better job in informing these people about file format, availability in different languages, which is good for education. For instance, people in Eswatini was installing LibreOffice in English just because they ignored that LibreOffice was available in their native language. So now they are installing LibreOffice in both languages. So people are installing the two version. They find LibreOffice in two version on their PCs. This is another opportunity that we have in terms of marketing. And now LibreOffice Technology. We have created guidelines for the use of LibreOffice Community, which is the name of the software today, LibreOffice Technology and LibreOffice Enterprise. We are updating TDF policies to include those brand names. And we have just announced the LibreOffice Technology logo. So this is important that we as community members start to use these assets, because this will allow us to communicate in a better and more coordinated way in the future. The same happens for the LibreOffice ecosystem logos. We will start working with ecosystem members to foster the usage of that logo, and also with certified people, because once you get certified, you have the opportunity of becoming a member of the ecosystem, and therefore that is something that we would like people to leverage, the opportunity of being a member of the LibreOffice ecosystem and supporting LibreOffice not only in their daily activity, but also during their free time as LibreOffice advocates. About the LibreOffice community and the new name and the change name of the software, I hope you have seen that we have improved the download page. We have added an enterprise users click here button. And just because there is that button, the number of people visiting the LibreOffice for Business page has probably increased by a factor of 10. And we still do not have enough, we don't have enough numbers to say that also the number of enterprises that have started to contribute to the project in some way has increased with the same percentage, which I would find fantastic. But in any case, we have started to segment better the users. In the future, we will work to make a better description of what we intend for support. So what we intend for community support and what we intend for enterprise support. Of course, many enterprises still think that as it is community supported, they can leverage volunteers' time in any way. We should be clear with them. Of course, we are happy to provide help for a specific technical question, But if the issue is a bigger one, if the issue is related to a feature, a missing feature, or a feature that has to be tweaked, is not by addressing or by asking repeatedly to volunteers that you are going to get your problem solved. In that case, you should use a different approach to get the support, and you, because of the level of support you need, you will also have to start thinking about paying for that support, because it's basically impossible to give you that level of support for free, especially if that level of support is something that asks for several hours of activity or work. In terms of LibreOffice Enterprise, we have registered the business domains. At the moment, they are just redirections, but we are in the process of, because we are in the process of reviewing the LibreOffice website. So once the LibreOffice website new look and feel will be consolidated, we will have people working at adding contents to these business domains. We have started to add in announcement also mention of enterprise version, and also mentions of professional support available. Professional support also available for migrations and trainings. We have created a LibreOffice Enterprise page. We still don't have enough people subscribed to that page. So I invite all the people that have an interest in supporting LibreOffice and supporting the ecosystem to log into LinkedIn and subscribe to that page. It is important. LinkedIn is becoming more and more a resource for business communication. So it is important. We have already published a couple of blog posts about the importance of being on LinkedIn and about the importance of educating people to support LibreOffice and the document foundation of LinkedIn, because the more supporters as a page, the more posts are shared on that page, the more that page is going to be visible to people that is visiting LinkedIn to get business information. And also we have developed a guide for the use of LibreOffice Enterprise product tag. All these documents are on Nextcloud. I've also created several slide decks. I'm adding notes to them. Unfortunately, I made a wrong estimate at first about the time needed to add these notes. So there's still a number of slide decks which are uncommented, but I promise I will add the comments as soon as possible and share them on Nextcloud, and I will also record a reference video for each slide deck so that people can see how each slide deck can be used for presentations. We've announced the new certification program. So there will be a basic an online training classes for certification to access the LibreOffice certified entry level. We will create this is still we avoided to have too many logos in development, but now it's the time to have a LibreOffice certified logo that can be used by certified professional. And we will also start developing a marketing program for LibreOffice certification. As you see, we will start working, as we have announced, we will start working with LPI, and LPI will definitely help us in increasing the outreach potential of the LibreOffice certification. And now some new initiatives about LibreOffice technology and about the marketing plan. So we will work with developers to create some technical articles to cover the technology behind LibreOffice. We now have the basic skill to produce interviews internally. So maybe this will be video interviews. It's important to provide this material to the outside world to explain the advantages of LibreOffice. So there will be articles, there will be interviews. We will also work more closely to the ODF technical committee members because we need to provide regular updates about the open document formats. So also in this area, we will do some activities to help and to reinforce the concept of LibreOffice technology. About community enterprise support, I've already anticipated this. We need to make it clear that volunteer support is not a service, is not based on any service level agreement, while professional provide support based on service level agreement. We have to make absolutely clear where the volunteer support ends and the professional support starts, because this is probably one area where we have not been very good at communicating in the past. About storytelling LibreOffice, we have a treasure, which is the LibreOffice brand awareness, and the research about the level of trust in brands that has been performed by Edelman. Edelman is the largest PR agency in the world. Shows that the value of the brand has increased during the lockdown. So the value of LibreOffice has increased in terms of, of course, is not a value that can measure in terms of economical value. Is an asset that is not monetary, not economic, but is an incredibly important asset. So we have to invest on this asset, especially because LibreOffice has the ethical value, which has increased a lot during the lockdown. And so we will work on this subject, and we will develop specific slide decks to leverage this opportunity. We will develop, as I said, a logo for certification, and we will interview certified professionals, and we will start publishing blog posts with tips and tricks provided by certified professionals. During certification reviews, we have talked with people that have their own tricks for to teach LibreOffice to use during migration, and it would be really nice to share with these tricks with the community, because these are tricks which can improve the value of each certified person, and by sharing this knowledge, we can all benefit in general about having a better certification and more competent people providing certification. Last thing, of course, the marketing plan was about the sustainability of free open source software. I have tried to involve all the people that have written about FOSS sustainability during the last 10 years, but unfortunately only 3 of them have answered to my request. So I will start working with these 3 people, and hopefully working with these 3 people will convince the other to contribute as well. It is important. Sustainability of open source project is something which is key for LibreOffice as much as is key for other open source software. So we should invest in this area, and I think we have the opportunity of becoming the leading force behind the FOSS sustainability communication. That's all in terms of the project, the status of the project, and the status of the marketing project, the marketing plan. Thank you for listening. Sorry for being late, but I was able to stay within my time, even if I started late. And if there are questions, I'm happy to answer the question. Otherwise, I think we can just reconvene tomorrow morning for the next day of the conference.
Yep, thanks. You made it indeed. We don't have any questions in the room chat, but maybe people will add something, so we can wait for a couple of minutes.
I can make a comment myself. It's the fact that I missed the room. It's even worse because I have created the schedule. So this shows, you know, that when you are over 65, in some cases you start missing the dots.
But Italo, I remember conference where in the schedule you had 2 different talks in 2 different places at the very same time.
Yeah, that's okay. It was even worse. Okay.
And let me imagine he managed it to do it.
Somehow, yes. But the highlight was like 10 years ago at a conference in Paris, where we actually had to share the rooms, and there was not as much space as we thought. Or let's say the walls were not as sturdy as they were supposed to be, and one of the walls was just a canvas. But I really don't know who it was, but someone fell into some other people's talk because they wanted to lean on the wall, but the wall was just a canvas, and flump, and you were in the other room. So it can be really, really nice also in person. It's 10 years ago, but I remember quite well.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up. So thanks for the talk, and you also got thanks from Lothar in the room chat.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, and see you tomorrow morning.
See you tomorrow morning. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
Lothars want to speak. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
No. I just want to clap my hands, and I don't find the right button.
Okay,
for
no.
it.
It's the hand clapping button.
Yeah. So I missed it. Thanks, Italo. Great one.
Okay. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.